way, and it's going to be as you would like it to be. And when he got home, he saw that his servant had already been healed at the same time that Jesus told him. And then there's another situation where one of Jesus's inner group, one of his disciples, Peter, they went to Peter's mother's house. She was sick, she had a fever, and all Jesus did was touch her hand, and the fever left, and she got up and made some food for everyone. Now, in the 18th verse of the 8th chapter, we're getting close to when the beginning of our lesson starts. Now, when Jesus saw great multitudes about him, he gave commandment to depart unto the other side. And a certain scribe came and said unto him, Master, I will follow thee whithersoever thou goest. And Jesus said to him, well, the foxes have holes, the birds have nests, but the Son of Man hath not where to lay his head. In other words, he's saying, if you come with me, you can't expect the comforts of home, if you will. The animals have burrows in which they go to live, and the birds have nests to be able to spend the evening. But the Son of Man has not taken unto himself any kinds of possessions. So don't expect things to be easy. And then another going to come after me and follow me, let the dead bury their dead. And now our lesson for today begins at the 23rd verse. And when he was entered into a ship, his disciples followed him. And behold, there arose a great tempest in the sea, insomuch that the ship was covered with the waves. But he was asleep. And his disciples came to him and awoke him, saying, Lord, save us, we perish. And he saith unto them, Why are ye fearful, O ye of little faith? Then he arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was great calm. But the men marveled, saying, What manner of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him? Why are you afraid? Most of the disciples, most of those who were followers of Jesus in and around Galilee, were familiar with the Sea of Galilee. Some of them were actually fishermen who had experience of going and catching fish in the Sea of Galilee. But while there were storms that were somewhat common because of the outlay of the lake with the surrounding mountains, which cause sudden storms sometimes, this one was very, very different. In fact, since all of the New Testament, or most of the New Testament, is translated from Koine Greek, the word that's translated tempest is actually what we have come to use anything having to do with an earthquake, study of earthquakes, seismology, and then, of course, there's the Richter scale, which measures the severity of earthquakes. But while earthquakes, for the most part, don't apply to water, we do know, and it's becoming increasingly more so, that earthquakes cause water to produce what we now understand are called tsunamis. And so, while this Sea of Galilee was not a large body of water, the effect that this earthquake had caused such uh, a powerful expression on the water that all of the water was covering the ship itself. It mentions, and behold, there arose a great tempest in the sea, insomuch that the ship was covered with waves. But Jesus was asleep, and his disciples came to him and woke him, saying, Lord, save us, we perish. Now, in the other two Gospels, the three make up what we now call the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. In the Gospel according to Luke, this same encounter, one is saying to Jesus, Master, Master, we perish. In Mark, it's similar, but it says, Master, carest thou not that we perish? And then, of course, as we just read here in Matthew, um, the disciple shouts to Jesus and said, Lord, save us, we perish. Now, obviously, all of these expressions indicate that they are what we would say deathly afraid. There's extreme terror expressed on their part. And sometimes, we may mistakenly think that Jesus is not aware of the depth of our torment or our worry. That why would we be afraid? And then, of course, there are others that understand perfectly well that God knows everything, but that because He's not acting as though we think He ought to act, that we might even go so far as to foolishly say that, well, maybe He doesn't even really care whatsoever about us. But certainly nothing could be further from the truth. This expression on the part of the disciple of Jesus, while it's an expression of terror for fear of death, it's actually a prayer if we really think about it. First, he says, Lord, which he is acknowledging Jesus as his master, and then of course he says further, "Save us." So he's recognizing that Jesus is in fact Lord, but that he also has the power to save them. So, while in a sense it wasn't a great expression of faith, they should have thought more about the fact that Jesus said they were going over to the other side. But he was expressing faith in that he believed that by calling out to Jesus, that Jesus would in fact save him. And I say that it's very much like a prayer is because we who are in Christ Jesus, we who have allowed God to prevail upon our hearts and to have us understand that we were sinners in need of salvation and that we could not have a relationship with a holy God without our sin having been paid for. We do or have cried out to God, Lord, save us. I've made a you tell me how I should live my life. Lord, I want to spend eternity with you. So, Lord, please save me. Sometimes we think that prayers need to be long and drawn out, but that immediate expression on the part of either Jesus' disciple or those of us, as I said, that are in Christ Jesus, just uttering those words, Lord, save us, if it is heartfelt, and certainly God knows our heart, we are asking God to save us. Save us not only from ourselves in the time that we have remaining on this earth, um, but of course, save us from your wrath to come when the judgment will fall on all mankind. And so we continue on in the 26th verse, and he saith unto them, why are ye fearful, O ye of little faith? Then he arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was great calm. Now, Jesus obviously was disappointed with his disciples, not because they woke him from a sound sleep, but he is displeased with them because of the way they expressed themselves. And his question, why are ye fearful, to Jesus, it indicated that there was a lack of faith in Jesus. The fact that Jesus said, we're going over to the other side, should have been enough. That given that they had seen the things that Jesus did in their midst, if Jesus said that we were going to the other side, that should have been sufficient, and they should have believed that in spite of the storm that arose, that they were going to be able to arrive on the other side in safety. And so Jesus chides them for expressing very, very little faith. If in fact they expressed any faith in the passage because of the things that they had seen him do. Faith is not the same thing as vision. If in fact you know what the outcome is going to be, if you can see the end result of something, that is vision, that is not faith. Faith is expressed when you don't know what the outcome is going to be, but that you act as though you know what the outcome is going to be because of how much trust you have in what it is God is saying. It says they feared because they did not understand that their deliverance was already an accomplished fact. The uttering of Jesus that we're going over to the other side, as I said, ought to be or should have been enough for them to exercise faith. And in spite of the water crashing down and the boat, the ship rocking back and forth, that they should have realized that they had God Himself on the ship and that they were not going to drown. Sometimes we don't think of Jesus in terms of being able to command some part of creation, as certainly the land and the sea is. If we want to take just a minute and go over to the Gospel according to John, and look for just a short time at the beginning verses. First chapter of John, in the first verse, it reads, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made." So all three persons of the Godhead were certainly part of creation, but it was God the Son who was the means by which things came into being. So, given all of the experiences that the followers of Jesus had, most especially those who went with Jesus everywhere, his inner group, those whom he eventually named apostles and sent out, they, more than anybody else, should have understood that that Jesus was in fact God in the flesh, and that all of what they witness Jesus doing is because of that fact. So, given that Jesus created the sea and the land and the all of the animals and all of the vegetation, and likewise mankind, that it should not have been any kind of surprise to them that in fact he was able to calm the sea, and thereby calming their fears as well. Um, in the fourth chapter of the Gospel according to Luke, it goes so far as to say, and when Jesus rebuked the winds and the sea, it's recorded there that he said, "Peace, be still." And that certainly is part of um, one of the great hymns that we have uh, sung on many occasions. Um, but instead of them fearing for their very lives, they should have understood who it was that they had on board, and that if in fact he said that they were going over to the other side, that should have been sufficient. That should also say to us that whenever storms arise in our lives, when things untoward happen to us, any kind of calamity, any kind of sickness, we should continue, even in the face of things not going as we would like them to go. Our faith should never waver. It's been said that if you have faith in God, then you also need to express faith in His timing. It's often been said is that God is never late. He may not come when we want Him to show up, but He is never late. He's always on time. Actually, it's Mark 4:39, not Luke. Verse 27, but the men marveled, saying, "What manner of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him?" And while I have touched on the fact that they should have recognized who it was that they had in their midst, you can certainly imagine the look on their faces when, after their expression of fear and doubt, that by asking Jesus to save them, and he in fact uttered the words and rebuked the sea, that they probably stood there with their mouths agape and couldn't really say much of anything, but they marveled at what they had witnessed. Jesus had given them new proof of his control over the forces of nature. And as I have already expressed, one who created the heavens and the earth and everything that is contained therein should not have been any kind of surprise. The Lord's dominion over the winds and the waves was actually the kind of dominion that God gave to Adam before he disobeyed him and ate of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of the fruit of the knowledge of the tree of good and evil. And sometimes Adam is referred to as the first Adam and not just Adam. But he lost his power of dominion that God gave him after he created him. Remember, he allowed him to name all of the animals, and he was supposed to take care of all of the vegetation, where God had planted him in the Garden of Eden, but he allowed himself to be disobedient to God and lost his dominion over the earth to the prince of this world, Satan, this adversary, Lucifer, this angel initially of light, who fell because he expressed to God that he wanted to be God. And so that's why we have such chaos in this world, is because instead of mankind having dominion over the creation that God gave us, we have lost it. And Satan, for the time that God has given him, is controlling, to some extent, the things of this world. And of course, Christ, who is referred to as the second Adam, once again expressed his demonstration to the future restoration of humanity's dominion over creation by giving that little example to the disciples that when the Son of God is in your midst and he says something, all you need to do is to believe and express great faith and do not fear. And so a lesson for today is coming to a close, and we look forward to seeing you on next week, if it be God's will, where our lesson will be entitled Healed by Faith. Healed by Faith, taken from the 9th chapter of the Gospel according to Matthew, verses 18 through 26. And so, as I said, we look forward to being with you next week, where we will honor fathers men who have acted as fathers, even if they are not biological fathers. We remember those of us who no longer have fathers. If we had a good father, then certainly we thank God for the memory that we have of the fathers and grandfathers that we had. So this week, spend some time thinking about your father if he is no longer here, your grandfather, and of course, those of you who have fathers, make sure that you express your love to your dad sometime this week. And on that special day, if God should spare our lives and we should get together next Sunday on Father's Day, make that day just a little special for your dad. And so until next week, when we look forward to seeing you, may God continue to bless you and show you his favor and give you his peace. Express faith throughout this week in that the God who created you loves you and will take care of you. God bless you.